Soon, Cromfell, we'll see the rose burn. Then we shall go beyond the wall, and we're not going to return until we have this core. Then all kingdoms shall once again belong to my lineage. Let the call to arms begin at dawn. The song of victory I sense is near. I will show them all just how wrong they were about me. When they hear my 100,000 angry riders thunder, watch them appear from the forest depths. They will see my sign, and know it is too late for them. They will bend at the knee before their new god in defeat and shame, and then we will collect their fighters, and we shall complete my conquest. If any defect, their families die. You must make an example. Let it infect their puny minds. They will forsake their leader, their children, and their friends. Those who don't, place them on the stake. And if any of them offends or curses my name, they too will suffer, then die. This law extends to those of all ages. To instill this fear is crucial, and we must turn them against each other, fill them with paranoia. Their trust must lie in me alone, Cromfell, as does yours. Renfrey, brimmed with lust of power, continues to swell with inner pride. His voracious hunger, a primordial spell for control over his precious kingdom, through which he walks blindly. Verging on the hilarious, were it not so dark and deadly, is Renfrey's train running away with passengers undoubtedly both for and against Renfrey's sway. But everyone's there, all aboard, as it hurtles toward the day when King Renfrey brings down his sword. But until that day comes to pass, the evil king will use his horde to conquer and destroy. His crass tactics and flagrant means will not quiet until he can amass the bodies needed for his plot, slaves and fighters, the weak and brave, those willing and those who are not. We will capture and then enslave those who are not willing to join. If they resist, then a mass grave awaits. And gather every coin they worked for it's not theirs, it's mine. The fruit of their loin you will purloin. For all their heirs will be mine. Yes, Lord, as you will. And one of your primary cares, the village? It's true, they are still holding to the ancient belief of the Christ. We're ready to spill their blood. It will be a relief to be rid of them, and for you, Lord, it will show how you are chief God amongst the gods. Tell me, who was their leader? It does appear Bishop Hunter's reach went throughout several villages. It's clear now he was what you call a priest for the ancient Jesus sect. Fear not, Cromfell, that bishop has ceased his preaching. Now he speaks only to the crows and maggots that feast upon his head, and all who see get the message. Yes, well, my lord. Well, what? His head still remains free of the rot. Well, then get your sword and help it along, or else we might find that head being adored as some sort of a heavenly omen of that fool's martyrdom. My lord, the head has already been removed, stolen. Then search the kingdom for that head. I will not come back to find we have a cult of some Christ man followers. You will track them down. Can you grasp this? Good. Now, let us prepare for the attack upon the Rose. Tell me just how many fighters will be placed beneath my command with the vow. A letter to Margreta. My dear Margreta, it's in haste I transpond to you. Odious King Renfrey seeks now to lay waste to the free land. In this joyous time of the Immaculate Birth, the king's found to be furious over something of little worth. As ever, the king's game nights are to be held. All are in good mirth. as usual, to see bizarre, pseudo-engineered creations of the king's technosmiths from afar and near. Their dark machinations, each year, ever more perverted, display the manifestations of this kingdom that reverted to satisfying base desire. Ever few are converted. Renfrew continues to conspire against the eviscerated church, and so few to seek to aspire to our good Lord's elevated truths that I fear we now approach an end to the consecrated Lord's Mass. I have no one left to coach. The young are showing no interest, and think themselves above reproach. I'm left with no one to invest the true depths of our history in. It is a thought I detest. I devote my life to carry the true message of Jesus Christ, the gospel, and the whole story of the events leading to Christ. God's encounter with the desert people whose line gave birth to Christ. Their very real journey of hurt, pain, love and joy, conquered defeat, family life, walking on dirt and sand, climbing trees, feeling heat from our star as they work the soil to grow the crops they need to eat dinner together. I recoil to think no one will carry on our heritage. It's to despoil the future of the steadfast light. Currently, King Renfrew's holding a young man. John, I'd like to have you take a turn at this book here while I respond to a friend. Then we'll take a turn with the Bible. I'm rather fond of this little book. It's a song about Jesus written before the Catechism. It's rather long for a song, but I think you'll like it. Then I'll show you how you belong in the greatest story you're like to find in this great collection that I tend. And if you should like to have a snack, the far section has a stacked cabinet. Enjoy! But wait, can I... An inflection in Margretta's voice struck the boy as odd. It was after she read the light box of the strange alloy with buttons that she bowed her head for a moment, took a deep sigh, composed her face from one of dread, then glanced upward beyond the sky. Then, looking down, she closed her eyes, breathed deeply, exhaled a sigh, and, soft as a butterfly flies, she touched her forehead with her hand, then lowered it to where love lies, brought it up to her shoulders, and gained a renewed look of resolve. John pondered this a bit, and he was not able to resolve the reason for her strange movement. Watching model planets revolve around a star with puzzlement, John moved to touch one, but he found he couldn't, to his amazement. This magic truly did confound him, and so he started to play with it, passing his hand around and through the sun's spheres, through a sun ray that warmed his hand. But John did not know what they were. He knew the way the sun, moon, and each little dot at night moved across the sky. For in the kingdom this was not believed. Those lights in the sky were anything else but lights. Much of the great knowledge of the high-end ages was lost, and as such, known truths began to fall apart with the loss of authority. Generations did not impart sacred values to their children. Total loss of identity ensued, each one paving their way as fit for them, holding ever less as sacred, nothing to stay the hand from breaking what never can be mended without the will to seek the truth and endeavor to live a good life. A deep chill swept over John as he pondered these light spheres. It gave him a thrill to play with them. As he wondered what they were, the small blue and white light sphere he was touching wandered from its orbit in a quick flight over a black plate. It then grew in size, revealing a new sight of the planet. It was a view of trees, rivers, glaciers, prairie, and ocean, and a place John knew from a picture at his home. He realized with a sharp sinking feeling overwhelming him, he was looking at the earth. Blinking quickly, he gave his head a shake. He stood in a rapture, drinking this in, hoping he was awake, for this was too good to be true. Ancient pictures of earth weren't fake. He had been taught such a view of Earth as a sphere was not real, just an imaginary view of artists who had a great deal of time in which to use their hands for creating the surreal. But this model surely demands a basis in reality. He can clearly see all the lands of the kingdom and the East Sea. He can even feel the texture and heat. And he touches the sea without getting wet. A mixture of bafflement, joy, awe, and fear swirl within. Such an adventure at his control. He zooms in near the kingdom where he sees movement, when without warning it goes clear. Hey, wait, where'd it go? John is sent into a panic. He turns to see Earth back in the arrangement with other planets. A true marvel, this device, but now it won't respond. His touch goes right through, reaching for another planet, this one surrounded by a ring and several moons in orbit. John feels inside it is flowing around a core hot to the touch. After some time, this gets boring. So John, seeing that there is such a wide array of texts and books, starts snooping around and finds much incomprehensible. He looks at a title that is clearly beyond his grasp, and it hooks him. On chaotic symmetry in the Higgs field, scaling the wall from the quantum to unity with relativity, the fall from the plank into the dark sea, rescued by a string. Now, of all books, save one in this library, this trilogy encapsulates the universal history in physical laws, and it dates to the mid-end ages when Earth was united. It illustrates all of the events that gave birth to the Big Bang, how dark matter and dark energy helped give birth to the universe and scatter space-time, electromagnetic energy, and how Higgs matter forms from strings in the dynamic Higgs field as strings jump from the plank into the Higgs oceanic fractal, coalescing in rank, scaling up and crossing thresholds. When John read this, his mind went blank. Nowhere within the deep gray folds of John's mind was there a basis to understand how life unfolds from physical laws, no basis for understanding the basic laws underlying the basis of the unified dynamic between nature's five forces. He did not know the mathematic nature of the universe. He lacked the training to know that equations aid humans to see reality by helping show abstract concepts in a concrete form. But this caused something to grow within John that was so complete it would change the course of his whole life. Curiosity now beat from the inner depths of his soul. His head spun with question and thought. He didn't know it, but a hole opened up in his mind. It sought to devour knowledge in spite of himself. A distant thump brought him back from his thoughts. The faint light coming from the windows let him know evening was near. He might still have time to read, maybe get a snack before Margreta came back. He walked to the cabinet, and on his way across the same way he came, he found on the floor a small book. Maybe the thump came from this book dropping to the floor, he thought. So he picked it up and was intrigued by its title, for it looked like an equation and word mashed together. So he took it with him, walking past the stand, holding the Bible, the one book Margreta claimed to be the most important. He gave a quick look, wondering what would make his host claim it is the most important book. He gave a pause to probe her boast. He gave the book a hesitant touch. He opened it, and he found nothing to be significant. So he walked on and got a mound of snacks and settled in to read, forgetting the world all around. He entered this book with great speed, and found the world to now be cast strangely as he began to read. The darkness now has come so fast.